where Koehler is really focused on it. Since everybody says, okay, you have to cut a tree down, but actually the paper industry is growing more trees than cutting them down, since otherwise in a few years we don't have trees anymore and we cannot produce paper. So I explained my team who I am, where am I from. So I think over the years I've learned, explain yourself, why you do things to a certain degree, explain them your characteristics.
Welcome to the Westbound Podcast. My name is Tobias Oertzen, founder and managing director of the Oertzen Group. Each month we bring you international business leaders to share their personal and professional journey in North America. Thank you for spending time with us. And now let's get to it. Welcome to the Westbound Podcast, where we elevate the European business community. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today with Tobias Sternbeck, the CEO for Beaver Papers. And as the name suggests, we're going to learn a lot about paper today. So on that note, moin Tobias.
Moin, grüß dich. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit about Asia today. We're going to talk a little bit about Germany today. We want to definitely talk about the US, as we are in the US, and learn a whole lot about specialty paper, from what I understand. So excited to hear about that. Yeah, the first time I learned about you was I read an article and I saw that Koehler Group, the German parent, had acquired a minority stake of Beaver Paper in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is Atlanta suburb.
Yeah, a little bit northeast, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, in 2016, and then lately has, fully acquired the company. And so I thought that was very, very interesting because I had never heard of the Koehler Group before. Okay. And so reached out the company a little bit, and it's one of those big hidden champions, that's been around for a long time. So I'm excited to hear about all this. But let's start with you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up in the US.
I would say by coincidence.
Okay.
Born and raised in Berlin, obviously Germany, so I still carry a German passport.
Yep.
Then moved to the southern parts of Germany, into Baden-Württemberg for 5 years, then moved further south to Switzerland, and then moved further down to Singapore. Spent nearly
Just
a decade.
a little further.
Bit further. I overjumped Italy and some other parts. And then I spent more than a decade in Asia, in Singapore and in Japan. And then, like I said, by coincidence, I ended up in the US, so the most likely furthest westbound you have so far sitting on this chair.
Yeah, if you keep going, you'll arrive in Singapore again,
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about that, yeah. Well, that's great. And so have you always been in the paper industry? In this, has that been your beginnings and then kind of carried you through? Or?
Yeah, sort of. So my internship in Germany was with a paper wholesaler. So I learned this typical wholesale and foreign trade.
So are you, let me and our listeners understand that a little bit. So a paper wholesaler, are we talking like Dunder Mifflin, the Office kind of paper wholesaler?
Yes, both. Yeah. Well, typical German paper wholesaler has either the A4 size or US letter papers, obviously, but also offset.
Okay.
So usually you cater both. So more the office space with envelopes and whatever's there, and then the offset paper side printers, where you say like offset printing, screen printing partly, obviously as well, and now more in the digital world.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting. So when I started there, I thought it's like, okay, paper, A4, A3, white, gray, that's it.
Yeah.
But then you come there and you have like 3,000 different papers. And you're like, whoa.
In all the different applications, right? Yeah.
Exactly,
so it's interesting. I can relate a little bit because I used to work for companies selling managed print services, and we sold digital printing presses from Konica Minolta. Yeah. So some of this I resonate with. So that was probably an interesting beginning as a großen Auslandsgau.
Yeah, I think it's a good learning step.
Sure. Yeah. And then moving on from there.
Then went into the paper industry itself. Or moved a little bit out of the offset office space into the digital world. So large format printing, inkjet printing in wider size, which was in those days, 1999 was just in the beginning. Everybody was like, hey, 3 square meters an hour or 30 square feet an hour. And color, great. Whereas today you're color proof. So if somebody wants to print Coca-Cola red, he gets Coca-Cola red.
Right.
And it's in a complete insane speed. Not as quick as offset, but you can print 1 piece, 2 pieces, 1,000 pieces. So digital was always a bit my favorite.
Sure.
Since there it was in those days new, still something which developed, and not offset was a bit boring for me since everything is the same standards, same sizes at all times, same whiteness of the paper. So digital was the world, and then due to that came into the paper manufacturing industry in Switzerland, and then full-time doing dye-sublimation papers, which maybe I will tell a little bit more later on. It's a very special paper.
Okay,
very interesting. Nobody knows about it, but everybody has it.
Everybody has it, right?
That's the interesting thing. So people are always like, sublimation, what's that? And you start explaining, and then they're, oh, okay. And then I received a great opportunity for the Swiss company actually to move into Singapore. I was always responsible for Asia already. I wanted to grow Asia. I was always fascinated. And then Singapore was then later on the location we choose for growing our business in Asia Pacific. And then later on down the road, I worked for a Japanese company in senior management, producing printers for the textile industry.
Okay.
Also some other printers, but I was responsible for the textile printers.
Okay.
Which was very, very interesting. Also to live and work in Japan with different mentalities.
Now, when you say printers for the textile industry, this is large capital equipment, right? Or no?
Yeah, it always depends. Well, what is large? What is not large?
Sure.
You can actually start at around 20 grand.
Okay.
But you can go up for $1 million or $2 million.
Okay.
So entry level to really high scale. And of course, if you need something more rounded, then it can get easily a little bit more expensive than $2 million. But, you can start very fairly small with maybe in total investment, let's say 80,000, 100,000, and you're fully ready to go to produce garments.
Interesting. That is so interesting. Yeah. And then you made your way through Koehler through a headhunter, I believe, right? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So
I got this phone call.
Evil headhunters.
Exactly, the bad boys.
Yeah.
No, I think the classic way, and the opportunity was great. USA was never on my bucket list.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to grow old in Asia and retire over there, but somehow very interesting opportunity with a great mother company behind it, and I was like, okay, I'm up for this challenge. Moved here with a family. And since 3.5 years, we're pretty happy here. Yeah,
and I mean, awesome resume also. Now you've been in management leadership positions in 3 different continents. You know, I mean, that's quite remarkable. Tell us a little bit about Koehler Paper, the Koehler Group. Tell us about the different products, the history, size of the company.
Koehler is a very interesting company. It's family-owned until today. It's over 214 years, if I'm not mistaken, right now, with like 2,500 employees roughly worldwide. We are very focused on sustainability, which I think is a great step. So we also just actually made a commitment to 2030 that we are going to produce more renewable energy than we consume. And paper industry consumes quite a lot of energy. But we're, I think, very leading in that. We even have a company inside our group only focusing on renewable energy, like wind parks, photovoltaic, water energy. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, of course, paper is the background.
Also, with the current energy prices, probably not a bad direction to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So you hit a couple of flies with one clap, right?
Of course, this is a good benefit out of it. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's really the sustainability where Koehler is really focused on it. Since everybody says, okay, you had to cut a tree down. But actually, the paper industry is growing more trees than cutting them down, since otherwise in a few years we don't have trees anymore and we can't produce paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually we help the environment in that. But yeah, paper is still our core business in the group. And they are very focused on specialities with playing card papers, flexible packaging, to get away from all this plastic packaging and going into really sustainable, recyclable, only paper solutions for food.
Yeah. So on the playing on the game side, you have so like literally someone playing Uno or playing Skat or like so literally like so if you grab a deck of cards, this could be on paper from the Koehler Group, right?
The chances are pretty high.
Pretty high. Okay, gotcha. All right.
And so in this, I think there we also where Koehler is a world market leader. They know what they're doing. I think even if you go to Las Vegas, as we are in the United States, and there you don't want to cheat, so you need to see. You cannot see through.
Yeah.
So that's a special topic at the end of the day. But I think the chances are high that you play with a Koehler card if you're in Vegas.
I saw this little video on the Koehler Group website where it was being tested by this little arm, to if it has the right pliability or if it holds up, I guess. So that's okay. Board games as well. I know this from our client Ludofact. They actually are the manufacturers. One of the games they manufacture is Settlers of Catan, which is a big board game in Europe, but all over the world, honestly. They're here in the US as well. And I had learned from them that, they buy their paper from the Koehler Group. Okay, so I get that. And tell us about the flexible packaging. What are some of those applications as far as papers are concerned?
Flexible packaging is mainly we try to get more into the food industry. So we have customers for packaging chocolate, purely into paper, so to really get away from all this plastic or those compounds. So sugar, chocolate, tea. And there are plenty of more opportunities, be it the soup. I just recently I went to Lidl, or my wife actually went to Lidl the other day, and now it's the cherry tomatoes were not packed purely into plastic anymore, but the container was paper. Top was still plastic, which is fine, but there we see that the industry is moving into this direction, and I think this is very, very interesting. That Koehler's pretty well set up with a very great paper machine, so I love that one.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very interesting market in the future in general for us as human beings to be more sustainable. And we both know how much plastic we throw away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In packaging in general, I mean, if you notice anything, there's this huge need or development for customized packaging, right? Smaller runs, different. I think I told you at lunch about my daughter coming home with chocolate-covered strawberries and raspberries, and they all come in these different kind of packaging and stuff. One thing I'm interested in: does Koehler build their own equipment, or do you purchase the equipment?
We purchase from our industry leaders in our industry.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
To create your own paper machine. Would be cool if you could do it, but I think there are some other experts.
Sure.
Who know what they're doing.
No, absolutely makes sense. And then, so how about Beaver Paper? So you came over, you're the CEO here. Tell us about Beaver Paper. Tell us about the size of the company there and what kind of products you focus on.
So Beaver Paper actually has its own history in Canada, but then the owners of it moved down. We've been here in several locations in the state of Georgia. It's over 40 years now. From the very first beginning, very related to the textile industry. In the beginning, like this cut and sewn paper, since you have to cut textile, and then you had some inner layer papers, or you want to shrink it. There's plenty of things around. We also sell some plastic into this direction, which is partly needed. And then in 1999, there were the first customers out of the textile industry printing traditional in rotogravure or screen printing. They came to the suppliers in this industry and they were like, okay, we bought a printer for maybe proving it's not fast, it's digital. Do you have something? And so Beaver Paper was one of the pioneers jumping into this market.
Interesting, okay.
And since ever then, a leading source into that, and the market evolved. Like I said earlier, let's say 3 square meters, and hey, there's color, great.
Yeah.
And today, I think in our industry, in textile industry, the fastest machine can produce 800 meters an hour, and exactly the colors you want to have. This is pretty amazing to see and being part of it over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And of course, Beaver always developed or evolved with the market, whatever the market needed. There's been always some intelligent people behind it to say, okay, this is the direction where we have to go. And of course, we have good relationships into the industry that we sometimes already know what's coming up next so that we can prepare something into this direction. Since no printer manufacturer wants to sell a printer and there's no media available who can handle that speed.
So they're naturally inclined to want to work with your research and development. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen this once in the world that somebody brought a printer to the market and there was no media working on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not directly in our industry, in the text industry, but in general in the inkjet printing industry. And this was maybe not the best idea, but everybody else learned out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the automotive industry would love this if the OEMs would come early enough to actually talk about things. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So this is how Beaver Paper evolved into that, and it's still market leader in this division where we're very unique to a certain degree. Of course, we have competitors. We have competitors in Europe. We have competitors in Asia. But we are very unique since we have converting facilities in the European region, so in Germany and also in the US. That's very unique that the paper manufacturer has those two sites, which I think also gives us a good advantage. We focus on solutions. We try to listen to our customers and not only telling them what they should buy, but we listen, okay, what should we produce for you that you buy it? And I think we've done it. Our team did a great job over the years to be a reliable partner in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what does this physically look like? You have a big roll of paper coming from, where's it coming from? And then
from Germany.
From Germany it is, okay. And then it leaves your facility. What has been done to it? What does it look like? Where does it go?
So, as said, so the production of the paper is in Germany. Yeah. There we work, of course, with our mother company very well together. Then in the paper industry, the first thing you get from the paper machine is a tambour. This is maybe between 15 and 20 tons. Then this gets rewinded into rolls we get, which is between, let's say, around 1,000 kilograms or a metric ton. And then this is the rolls we get them between, let's say, 61 centimeters, 24 inch, up to 3 meter 20. Yeah. This is where our industry stops. And then the rolls which are leaving our house are somewhere in between 20 kilograms and 300, 400. So we literally get the big rolls, make smaller rolls out of it as the customer needs it or the printer needs it itself. And there we go. Yeah, and then it mainly goes to, this was so interesting to me. So you think paper, and then as a layman as me, you think, okay, paper, right? But it is going into the textile industry, right? Like it's mainly going into garment manufacturers. Yeah, right? That's correct. So sublimation paper industry goes directly hand in hand with polyester. So natural fibers are not possible to sublimate. It's literally the ink is solid on the paper, mirrored, special ink, with a heat press or Muttis alte Heißmangel, so to say, with 200 degrees, the ink gets into a gas form. The polyester opens up. The gas ink goes into the polyester inside, and then once the heat is gone, polyester closes down. Yeah, and the ink is in the yarn itself. Interesting. Yeah. And as it's the great thing is it's one piece, two pieces, 100 pieces. Digital is great for that. Makes totally sense. The old part, you always need like 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters. Now everything is like, I don't want to have the same skirt like this lady has. I want to have my own thing. So fast fashion, right? Fast fashion is a very big user of that. Okay. Literally, your wife, my wife, if we would open their closet, if there's any skirts with polyester inside, most likely it's printed with this technology. Was it always Beaver Paper printed on? Maybe not, maybe yes, we don't know. And I cannot see that, but it's fashion industry is a very big market for this kind of technology. Sports apparel, football, so our football, American football, ice hockey, so cycling, classic is also produced in this technology. So it's a very diverse thing. Everything which is polyester, even, okay, we have the wrong coffee mugs today, but you get those coffee mugs like best dad in the world. Okay. That's sublimation. Interesting. If you go skiing, that's sublimation. Okay. So there's tons of applications. So then the U.S. market, really, this is just the beginnings, right? There's probably lots of opportunity for. In the U.S., of course, there's a lot of, but that's global. Yeah. So I think, and especially, of course, the big brands, wherever they produce, they're you have the technology somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. How was that? So you having had the unique opportunity to, work in German-speaking cultures such as Germany and Switzerland, but then also the Asian-speaking countries in Japan and Singapore, I believe, is those two, right? Although your wife is Korean, I believe, right? So you've got some insight there too. And then now you're here. What's some of the takeaways there?
US is different to everything. Well, I think every country is unique.
Sure.
But if you come out of Europe, especially out of Germany or out of Asia, the US culture, especially in the work environment, is completely different.
Yeah.
The employees are different. How to approach them is different. Sometimes, especially in the interaction between a German company and an American company, or German and American colleagues, there's a lot of misunderstandings partly. Of course, Germans speak, most of them, very well English, but it's not their first language. Then Americans maybe sometimes also interpret things into an email or into a conversation where you're like, having this German background, you're like, hey, that's a nice email, but the American is completely furious.
Yeah.
You're like, why?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I always see as a little bit of a problem, that to get into the culture, also for the Germans, so they have to understand, since when we come here, we're the foreigners.
Yeah.
So you have to adapt to the market here.
Yeah.
Do you always like everything? Do you always, like the Americans say, appreciate everything? Personally, I hate this word.
Right.
And I don't like it. But here it's common that you say it.
Yep.
So then you have to get used to that and adapt to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of cultural differences between both. Between all continents, I would say. But where you can partly say, maybe I didn't see the gap that big between Germany or Switzerland to the Asian culture. But between Europe and US, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So I think this is hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the US is very unique. In fact, I think, you get outside of the US. So my wife is Argentinian, and we spent quite some time in Argentina. And you still, you have soccer together, you have Formula One together, there's an appreciation for good coffee. There's, it's just like in many regards, although they're very different cultures, Germany and Argentina, I mean, I'm not suggesting for them to be related or anything. There is like common ground on certain things, right? If you look at the weather in Buenos Aires in the weather forecast, you see Paris, you see Singapore, and you see Moscow, and then also Buenos Aires, right? Yeah. And if you're in Germany, you see, Moscow, Singapore, and Buenos Aires, right? And if you're here, you see, Duluth, Minnesota, and Fresno, California, and then Atlanta, Georgia. So it's just it's also like go with like musical artists, for example, right? Like if you there are certain music artists that just never make it into the U.S. or never make it out of the U.S., right? Where the rest of the world is. So it's quite interesting. I will agree with you that it's a very different culture. How has this been with your employees, like on your taking over Beaver Paper?
I think the magic thing on that is actually to explain yourself. Since if you're not an American, of course, you will act differently. For me, it's maybe a balance between German, Caucasian, Asian. Since on my journey through Asia, I learned a lot, and which I liked from the management style. So I explained my team who I am. Where am I from? Since also in Germany, Berlin is different than Hamburg or the South. So I think over the years I've learned, explain yourself, why you do things to a certain degree, explain them your characteristics, the way you think, so that even if you maybe come across them maybe a little bit harsh, they start thinking and come back on like, oh, he said something when he introduced himself. Never mind.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think this is, in this case, communication between two cultures is extremely important.
Yeah. You told me a few things at lunch, which I thought were interesting too. There were like barriers you kind of had to break down within the company, right? Like really work on teamwork from what it was more hierarchical, I think, from when than you were used to Asia or maybe even Europe. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Wasn't that much the hierarchy, actually. It was more like between how they say here, blue collar and white collar.
Okay.
So it was a little bit too separated. And we're trying to change that, since at the end of the day, if the front office, sorry to say it like that, fucks something up,
sure,
the back has a problem.
Sure.
If the production does something wrong,
right,
the front has to take care of it.
Yeah.
So we're always sitting in the same boat. So why not work together as a team?
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't you interact?
Yeah.
And this was not really given like that when Koehler took over. And then we tried to slowly change that. And yeah, I would say after now, I'm here now 3.5 years. I'm 4 years with the company itself, but stuck in Germany thanks to the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think we did this turnaround that the people really work well together, that nobody's afraid of each other. Everybody can voice out. It's a very flat hierarchy. Everybody can, for example, come into my office or into my management team's office. Doesn't matter if this person is in sales or if this gentleman is driving a forklift.
Sure. Yeah, how it should be, right? How it is in Germany, very much so. It's very approachable usually, and interesting. How do you see generally the your industry evolving? What are some of the major trends that you're seeing that?
Well, if you look into the textile industry in general, so I'm not only maybe talking about specifically what we are doing. There's a trend to more and more getting digitalized. Even if everybody says, "Oh, that's already a lot," it's not. There's still a long way to go.
Really? Okay. Is there technology? Because the technology, well, you just mentioned something about several hundred meters. So it's not the technology, it's more... It's
a little bit, maybe the consumer will help on that to drive it much more into this direction. And sustainability, from my perspective, will also drive that more to go more digital, since there was a very wise professor from the university in Genk, Belgium. Forgot his name, maybe it comes later on in my brain, but so he did some studies on that, and textile industry is a polluter for the worldwide environment. And if you could change like this from today to tomorrow, from traditional to digital, you would save on water alone 300,000 Olympic pool sizes of water.
Wow.
You could literally... from the electricity standpoint, you can light up the entire Benelux for 2 months, 24/7.
Wow.
What you would save. And CO2 also quite a lot. So this will drive something to this direction as well.
Because of all the ink and chemicals involved in the traditional process.
It's the dyeing.
Especially the dyeing
is really a few. And especially some countries, and I don't want to blame anybody, but let's say in some countries, you can you look into the river.
Sure.
And you see what's the next color. What's the color of next season?
Yeah.
Is it red? Is it blue? Is it black?
That's scary, isn't it?
And this is really bad for the environment. And I think there are more and more governments also look into that and say, hey, okay, we have to do something. We cannot accept those things anymore. And then the most logic step is digital.
Digital printing,
And this can be either with sublimation, and of course, if it goes into cotton or natural fibers, put like that, like linen, silk, then it's different kind of inks. So then you print directly. But yeah, I think in general, textile industry going digital has a bright future. For us, I think times are a little bit rougher right now. Since, well, first we had the pandemic. Nobody wanted to go out anymore.
Sure.
So why should I get a new skirt? There was no sports in the stadium, so why do I need the latest jersey of my home club? The TV doesn't see if I have the latest one or not.
Or the German national team, you don't buy the new jersey for a different reason.
Okay, well, we talk next time. So let's get together after the European Championships, and maybe we have something to celebrate, and otherwise we just...
that's true.
Just take it from there. No, but I think the behavior in the pandemic, of course, changed a little bit since nobody needed something new. And then, of course, with the war in the Ukraine and the energy prices hiking up, then, of course, there also consumer behavior changed. In this case, I might take the words from the Adidas CEO, where he said, okay, 2024 is going to be rocky from 2025. He thinks it's going to be stabilized. I hope he's right.
Is there still supply chain interruptions from the pandemic, or has that been largely resolved?
That's actually pretty much largely resolved.
Okay.
So now we have maybe some other conflicts in the world again, where the boats take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But luckily, supply chain, we never had big issues. And that's thanks to our mother, since we ship so many containers around the globe, and we have good partners in this industry.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, we never had big issues on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So this was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of just listen to another podcast and we're talking about Temu. I mean, it's and then my daughter came the other day too with something Temu, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here comes the next thing.
Great.
And I mean, if you think about the amount of e-commerce that's going on, and fast fashion, and ever cheaper, and I can see how digital is the way to go, and how that could really benefit you guys. Yeah. What about the U.S.? Is there so you're currently focused on that, subset of the Koehler Group's offering, right? And that was also or is there other products that you also like the flexible packaging? You don't?
No, we don't do that. So Beaver Paper is focusing on Beaver Paper.
Yeah.
So that's my job. So of course you always look into the Koehler product range as well, or if we have a customer who could maybe need something out of the Koehler product portfolio, we just move them to our colleagues, which is good. But now we are only focusing here on the textile business, and that's more than enough to a certain degree. So
how big is your team now?
We have around 50 people now here in the States, and we have another 14 in Germany.
And you had to right size quite a bit, right, when you first came?
Yeah, so we're a little bit, under new management, some people work out, some people don't.
Sure.
And then also last year we had to downsize quite a bit due to the economy. But this was mainly stateside, but now I think we have a great team here in the US, and Europe in general, in any case, so we could also build there nearly from scratch, which was interesting. But and I'm glad I have a great team right now, and I can sit together with you, spend some time to record the Westbound
and
podcast.
You don't have to be there, so you can actually do podcasts. Yeah,
exactly.
That's good.
I can get away from the office, which is great. We've done some hard work over the last couple of years to get this right, and also to bring, first of all, Beaver into the Koehler Group, and also to really focus on what can we do right. In this market.
How's that going? The subsidiary and the mothership, cooperating is, there's been many clients that talk. That's always a challenge, because there's 6-hour time difference. There's cultural differences.
Yeah, I think if you are in a subsidiary, and it doesn't matter which time zone, if you're in front or behind,
right.
6 hours is still okay. 7 hours is for me always the worst case scenario. I don't know why it's only 1 hour, but it completely disrupts your day. No, I think communication-wise goes very well. I think the only thing as a German company working with a subsidiary in the US, and vice versa, you have to not rely that you get information. You have to go out and get the information from headquarters.
Right.
I think this is a mistake a lot of people are doing. And I don't blame headquarters for those things. That's just natural. I had the same issues when I lived in Switzerland. We had somebody living abroad. Then you have a meeting. He couldn't participate. Directly after a meeting, you want to inform him. You get a phone call. You forget about it. And you don't give him the information.
Yep.
So whoever is in a subsidiary in the US with a German mother, go talk to your colleagues, keep in touch, feel the pulse, get the information you need, even if it costs you time and you have to spend maybe like 30 minutes, a little bit small talk, but you get informations.
Right.
So never lose the grip to the mother or to a subsidiary. So that's very important from my perspective, that you keep this connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it needs to be driven from the top, to the troops, because otherwise that just won't happen. And then all kinds of miscommunication starts, and, bad attitudes develop, and all of a sudden you've got a much bigger mess on your hand than just focusing on more communication, So,
but I think it's both ways, since even the troops have to also go and get this.
Yeah.
So that's important. But,
absolutely.
It's always a little bit like how do you say that actually? Spagat.
Yeah.
In between.
That's a good question.
There's funny enough. There's even if we're fluent in English, but there are always some words we never use in the English version. Luckily, I'm learning with my kids right now. And sometimes my son comes back from school and he's like, yeah, this. I was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
So it's, then you look it up and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. I hardly use this word in German, so why would I use it in English?
There's just some unique German words that if you speak with another German, you say that word and all of a sudden, you know what's meant.
Exactly, that's clear. So it's typical German.
How has that been with your family? I mean, you have an Asian wife, Korean, and then your kids were born in
Korea.
In Korea, okay, yeah, and then you come over here. What has that experience been like with your family coming to the US?
Been actually very good, I have to say. So it's there's a lot of things good here in the US, but for us it was really, really perfect to be in Atlanta, being in Georgia, since it's a very...
You came through the pandemic too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So which was a big relief when you... And in Germany you couldn't go out, you couldn't go to a restaurant, and here you could do whatever you want.
Right.
So this was pretty unique, and in this case, then the German colleagues were very jealous. And when you say, just go to the restaurant for lunch, what?
Yeah.
Are you allowed?
Yeah,
of course. Now, families adapted very well. We're also very lucky, as you know, Georgia is a very diverse state with a very big Asian community. Yeah. Especially Koreans are here a lot, and of course also Vietnamese we have a lot, and Japanese. Yeah. But I think the Koreans are dominating a few areas here, and so the kimchi supply chain is completely settled, all stable, which gives a little peace in our household.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, I think it's easy to adapt here if you are willing to adapt. And so from that perspective, for family, it's good. And the kids are small enough to adapt very quickly into the environment. And again, it's so diverse. There's so many nationalities here. That's pretty easy to blend in. Yeah.
Quick response on the next question. Japan, Germany, US, where do you stay long term?
You didn't mention Singapore.
Okay. Okay.
I think all countries have their benefits, their uniqueness, their beauty. Yeah. There's somehow, to a certain degree, I have to say, there's always reasons why I left Germany, and I always see them. Yeah. But it's still my home country. Yeah. It's Heimat.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of those German words.
Exactly. Yeah, you cannot explain that in English.
It's like a feeling that comes off. I don't want to be weird, but it's like literally Heimat, and it's like how I feel when I get off the plane in Germany.
Since home, Zuhause is here. Yeah. But Heimat, and there's no word. Yeah. So I always try to explain this to people, but there's no word for that. I think Germany will always be meine Heimat. It's a great country, but maybe not mine anymore. I enjoyed Switzerland. And in this case, I can say we, since I met my wife in Singapore. So we enjoyed Singapore. Most likely would always go back there, since, to be very fair, the weather is great. Some people would say it's too hot, too humid. I loved it. You just have to get used that you're sweating. It was great, as we were too lazy to put some moisturizing cream into our face. The humidity was great. Yeah. I always look 10 years younger, most likely, than I am. Japan was also very unique. If you're a foodie, Japan is great. It's a beautiful country, but and most likely we might... I could imagine to live there once again in the future, but right now we're feeling home here. Yeah. And that's most important. I don't think that my wife wants to move, and I don't want to move either at the current stage. Yeah. Since it's an interesting country, even if it's very, I think a lot of people see it a bit critical from the outside.
This is the US or?
The US.
Yeah.
The US.
Yeah, I think
But I think if you are inside the US, you recognize a few more different things of this, what we had during lunch. Yeah. It's this sort of feeling of freedom. You are not really narrowed down. There's not really too many walls around you. So to a certain degree, if you cannot, of course, there are rules and regulations, but you still have more freedom, or it feels like it.
They seem more minimal, right? Like it's more.
That's maybe the right thing, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like less regulation. You know, I agree with you, because if you think about it, you still have to register your car. You know, you still have to buy insurance for your car. You know, you have to get a tag for your car every year, which is actually
$20.
Quite it's quite idiotic, because in Germany that works quite different. You know, and but but somehow it still feels like there's less regulation. I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
So I think this is very interesting for this country, and which makes a lot of people want to come here most likely.
Yeah.
And even if sometimes they're not as willing to let foreigners in, but once you have an American passport, doesn't matter where you're from, then you're an American.
Yeah.
And there are other countries.
You can have the passport.
You can have the passport, but you are still a Swedish guy. You are still a German guy. You're still a Dutch guy.
Yeah.
So they don't integrate you into their own society, or it takes a few generations.
Yeah.
And here it's just once they hand you the American passport, you're an American.
Yeah, that's very true. I actually went to dinner yesterday with some neighbors, and we had an Indian couple was there, an American couple, then me German, my wife Argentinian, another German, and it was just, we're all in the US, and see this as our home now,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's quite interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's
makes it easier.
Yeah, it does make it a lot easier. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, that was a very long answer to a quick question, quick response.
Yeah, sorry for that.
That's okay.
But it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
So what would be the country to live in again? All of them were great.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing about a career such as yourselves. You have the opportunity to see all these different countries, kind of pick the best of all of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow, yeah. I was lucky and fortunate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you manufactured it, I mean, you made the right decision, said yes when you needed to say yes and no when you needed to say no. I know you had told me that you've been approached about a change in Japan too, and at that time you decided that was not something you wanted to do. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit more. Let's go back to the Koehler Group and to Beaver Paper. So we talked about the flexible packaging. We also talked about some of the other product lines. The bread and butter that was kind of like receipts is one.
Yeah, this is. I would say all those things
thermal
which I
paper,
mentioned.
right?
There's thermal paper, playing cards. So this is our base.
Okay. Yeah.
So in those things, we've done this for generations actually.
Yeah.
Carbonless paper. So this is really the bread and butter which we have, and the knowledge, and then comes Beaver Paper, then comes Renewable Energies. We have another sister company doing the coasters, the beer coasters.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Cats, also very interesting, also belongs into our group.
Yeah.
Also located in Germany and also here in the US. So this is more than the on top.
Yeah.
But let's say the typical old paper business, what we have since generations.
Yeah.
That's our brand.
I mean, you can go in a million different directions if you wanted to get on an M&A path, right? I mean, there's so many different things you could do and so many related industries. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Koehler has been doing paper since 200 over years, and that's what they do great. They proved that.
Yeah. That's excellent. Very good. Yeah, well, this has been a very, very interesting discussion. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if there was anything we didn't cover or that we should be talking about.
I don't know. Maybe where do we go for lunch next time?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, we went to an Italian restaurant today, which I don't know, what would you give it, 1 out of 10? You spent some time in Italy, so...
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. So
how did you say that? It was eatable?
Yeah.
I think for American standard was actually pretty good.
It was okay,
yeah, it's definitely something, but it's... I think if you really want to have good Italian food, you either go into Italy or into a region where there are a lot of Italians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it makes sense. But no, I think you get some good food here.
Yeah. Well, you're my go-to guy in Atlanta now for anything Asian-related foods, because I think you know best where to go. Authentic Japanese and Korean.
Yeah, I don't have to travel that far actually, so I don't have to go downtown Atlanta. I think. Swanee area is a lot of good Korean food, good Japanese food. But I believe downtown Atlanta also has some good food to offer.
What's the best Japanese place in?
Currently, funny enough, directly around my corner.
Yeah. What's the name?
Sushi Nami and Mori House.
Sushi Nami and Mori House.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't do advertisement, but they're located somewhere Peachtree Industrial, Swanee Dam Road.
Okay. Yeah.
Just if somebody wants to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
And I don't get any endorsements on that one. But it's great. So it's good food.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my favorite Japanese restaurant closed down.
Yeah.
So I don't have to mention the name anymore. But yeah, there's great food, and especially also if you want to go for Korean food, I don't have to go to a Korean restaurant since I get the greatest Korean food at home.
Yeah. And that's also actually a personal hobby of yours, right? If you and your wife's.
Yeah, we try to cook as much as we can. My wife is funny enough as a Korean, and Korea doesn't have good bread, but she bakes the best bread I ever had, and what I can get here. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And this is really all things, be it so sourdough, obviously, but then baguettes, normal bread, brioche bread, and it's like...
Wow, she makes all those? Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And then you come downstairs and it's like, smelling like in a bakery. So it's great to have that.
That's one thing that I think Germany is very undervalued for. I think we have some of the best bread in the world, and no one knows about it. I mean, it's just not. People don't think. I mean, anybody I ask about, hey, what do you associate with Germany? It's all the stereotypes, right? Lederhosen, Bratwurst, Sauerkraut, Kuckucksuhren, like those kind of things, right? But no one says, the
great
bread.
Yeah,
amazing.
I agree. Yeah, we should have more German bakers coming over here into especially into our area.
Yeah.
That we get good bread.
Yeah, there's Bernhard's Bakery. I don't know if you know that one, but that's a good. I'll let you know the.
Okay, this would be great. Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to share your. There's always at the end of our podcast we always talk a little bit about how can people get a hold of us, right? The websites, LinkedIn handles. I know you have a personal Instagram channel too. I don't know if you. I'd like to share.
Yeah, if somebody is interested in hopefully good food or at least food we like. Kitchen Story. Instead of the I, it's a 1. And there we just post stuff we really like to cook, what we just tried. Sometimes also when we dined, had some nice dinner somewhere outside. Yeah. But that's very seldom since with a 4-year and a 6-year-old, it's not fun going out for dinner. I hope this gets better soon. Yeah. But yeah, this is something we enjoy a lot, cooking at home. Yeah. Now the boys appreciate the food a little bit more, so now you can start doing the nicer plating again. Yeah. My wife was complaining about it. Yeah, you plated much nicer in Singapore. I was like, yeah, we didn't have 2 boys then. And now it's just they're hungry. You just cook something. Yeah, exactly. So
it'll get better, I can tell you from personal experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think, and I'm crossing fingers, so it certainly gets better. So they already start decorating the table a little bit and put up the fork and knife and slowly getting it into the right direction. Yeah. We love cooking. It's a little bit like de-stressing for myself personally at all times. My wife, the baking she loves. The cooking is necessary evil for the boys. Okay. But yeah, we enjoy that. And otherwise reach out to us on either beaverpaper.com. Yeah. Otherwise, he has my number.
Yeah, exactly. LinkedIn profile, right? I'm sure that people could reach out there directly. Any positions you're looking to fill right now that you'd like to promote?
No, currently we are absolutely happy with the team we have. All positions luckily filled with great people.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's hope that stays that way for a long time. And hey, I really appreciate you coming by. Learned a lot today, and can't wait to do it again, Tobias. Thank you so much.
We will do so. Thanks.
That's great.